Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the first day of a series of classes about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I've been asked to inaugurate this, and I have not chosen a verse, but one verse that will be explained is the verse that we sing every day at the greeting of the deities. Angani yasya shakanendriyavriti manti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiranjaganti ananda, like that. We sing this every day when we greet the deities. So this is one of the verses that I'll explain in the class. So we're not going to chant responsively. We'll save a little time. Jai SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. I have a debt to one of my god brothers, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. He wrote a good article about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that I leaned on to prepare the class. I've taken notes on his article, so the insights aren't mine exactly. I'm repeating a lot of what Ravindra Swarup wrote in this article. This article is from the year 2015, and it was published in the Journal of Vaishnava Studies. If you don't know Ravindra, he's a scholar. Srila Prabhupada encouraged him to finish his PhD after he became a devotee. He met Prabhupada in Pennsylvania. You remember that Prabhupada went to Pennsylvania after he landed in New York, right? So then when he went back to New York, before he went back actually, he was invited to one university by a professor to speak to the students, and Ravindra was a student at that university, and he saw Prabhupada at that time. And he went on to get a PhD in religion, so he's a theologian, good writer. So he begins his article by talking about the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas worship Radha and Krishna according to the example and the instructions of Sri Chaitanya. You already know that, but the subject is Sri Chaitanya. So we have to talk about his teaching us. He taught us how to worship Radha and Krishna by his example and instructions. He's the golden avatar because he's Krishna internally, and externally he has the complexion, the golden limbs of Radha. So he's a combined form of Radha and Krishna, and that's what we want to talk about today. We're talking about we're talking about the avatar, the descent of Radha and Krishna. Hey, you guys over there, you're distracting me. Pay attention, Ramchandra. You guys, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm sure it's important. But now focus on what I'm saying, okay? Radha and Krishna appear in this world to reveal to us their Leela. And Gauranga, Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya, also reveals his Leela. They both, all three of them come to this mundane world, which is a limited time and space. They come with the purpose of showing themselves in this world. And not only that, they embody some of the ultimate principles of divinity. We'll discuss how there are three principles: Sat Chit Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda. We'll come to that. These principles of divinity and how they're embodied. You've heard that the personal interactions of Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya are the most confidential aspects or dynamics of the personality of Godhead. So these are not manifest very often. We'll discuss how they're very rare in the lifetime of Brahma. But the main topic of the class is the role that Radharani plays in establishing the interrelations between Krishna and Chaitanya, and how she advances the drama of Krishna's Leela. How Krishna Leela unfolds in this world. It starts with Radha and Krishna and it ends in Chaitanya Leela. And Radha plays a role in that. So what we're talking about today is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the 4th chapter of Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You know, that book was completed in 1615. The book Chaitanya Charitamrita was completed. That's sort of a long time. Half a century after Lord Chaitanya left the world. In terms of our time, the book was completed 411 years ago. So we're really looking into history when we study the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're looking 400, 500 years ago at what happened so long ago, 4 to 5 centuries ago. The 4th chapter is dedicated to clarifying the confidential reasons for Chaitanya's appearance. And as I said, Radharani takes a central role in the pastimes of Chaitanya. Before Ravindra describes these confidential things, he lays out the distinction between Krishna's material energy and his spiritual energy. The external energy is called the Bahir Anga, and the internal energy is the Antar Anga, internal and external, Bahir and Antaranga. And it's also the case that when Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya come to this external energy, they perform they have an external purpose. It's called hetu, purpose. Purpose means hetu. They perform a function that is a routine function of an avatar, which is to teach the Dharma of the Yuga. But they also perform an extraordinary function, which has to do with an esoteric purpose, not an exoteric purpose. The avatar of Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya, the avatars have an esoteric purpose in relation to the antaranga, the spiritual energy. So we want to talk about the external and internal energies. The external energy is called the Maya Shakti. And when the avatars enter the Maya Shakti, their intention is to propagate Dharma for the age in which they appear. The internal energy is called the Chit Shakti. And that energy has all kinds of activities that are performed in transcendence beyond the Maya Shakti. These are never-ending pastimes that are performed in transcendence. So there's a distinction between the two. Krishna never becomes affected by the Maya Shakti. He is aloof from his external energy. The only time he consorts with the external energy or Durga Devi, when he does that, he is Shiva. He's not Krishna. He doesn't directly interact with Maya Shakti. He does that in the form of Shiva. So he's what we would say impassive. He's not moved by the external energy like us, the conditioned souls. He's impassive. He's not affected. But he's very much affected by the Chit Shakti. The internal energy of Krishna affects Krishna and Lord Chaitanya very, very much. Krishna has an intimate relationship with the Chit Shakti. In fact, the internal energy is called Swarup Shakti, Krishna's very self, or Atma Shakti. The energy is described as his very self. This energy, the internal energy, is what allows Krishna to be what he is. You could compare it to yourself. You could say, well, my inner self, my mind and my intelligence and my ego, my subtle body, ultimately my soul, that's the energy that allows me to be who I am. So Krishna's internal energy is this Chit Shakti, not a subtle, conditioned ego or mind or intelligence. So Krishna is in an intimate relationship with this Atma Shakti, or Swarup Shakti, his own energy. And that's divided usually into three: the Sat, the Chit, and the Ananda. Sat, Chit, Ananda. The Sat energy of being, allows Krishna to be, and it allows all of us to be. It's a spiritual energy. That's the essence of the being of the living entities. We're all sharing that Sat energy, Sat. And the Chit energy, by the Chit energy, Krishna knows. He knows himself and he knows everything else. And the Chit energy allows us to know Krishna. So that's Sat Chit. And then there's the Ananda. By this Ananda energy, Krishna feels happiness or Ananda, bliss. And the Ananda energy also lets us experience or know the same bliss of Krishna. The Ananda energy is called the Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti. And who's the personification? Radha personifies. So that's what we said at the beginning, that these personalities, Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya, they eternally embody ultimate principles of divinity. So the Ladini Shakti is an ultimate principle, the Ananda, Satchit Ananda, the Ananda energy of Krishna. And Radharani is the embodiment of that. So Krishna Das Kaviraj describes this. Listen to this breakdown. The essence of the Ladini energy is prema, or pure love of God. That's the first level that he breaks it down. The essence of Ladini is prema. Then he goes one step further and he says what the essence of prema is. Do you know what that is? It's bhava. Bhava means ecstatic emotion. So you have Ladini, prema, bhava. He's going deeper and further. And then he says the essence of bhava is mahabhava. And Radha is the personification of mahabhava. So that's a breakdown of Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti, the essence is prema, the essence of prema is bhava, and the furthest reach of bhava is mahabhava, embodied by Srimati Radharani. Nobody else can reach that level. So what does this energy do to Krishna? How is Krishna affected? He's actually controlled by the Hladini Shakti. Radharani is offering her loving service to Krishna. And Krishna is very receptive to that. He's vulnerable to that. He's accessible by devotional service. Prabhupada also wrote in the Nectar of Devotion that we can approach Krishna through his internal potency by rendering devotional service, just as Radharani does. So I'll read a little bit from Ravindra's article. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas hold that the world has received, through Chaitanya's grace, a revelation of the supremely vulnerable, receptive, and accessible side of God. Through Chaitanya, the accessible side of God has been revealed. That's his most endearing and appealing feature, his most appealing and endearing feature. And it's the feature that most powerfully evokes love of God, pure love of God. When Chaitanya reveals the endearing and appealing feature of God, Krishna, this has the most powerful effect in evoking pure love of God in the living entities. This feature is not manifest when God is engaged as the Paramatma in relation to his material energies. Although Krishna continues to be the supreme controller, the Ishvara Parama, only when Krishna is manifest in Vrindavan is he able at the same time to immerse himself in the bliss derived from being the supremely controlled person. The supreme controller becomes the supremely controlled person. The intimacy, sweetness, and fullness of the relationships in Vraj are a major reason that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas consider Krishna to be the summit of all other manifest forms of Bhagavan. So the sweetness and the fullness and the intimacy of the relationships in Vraj, they make pure love of God available in this world when they're revealed by Lord Chaitanya. The other feature of Godhead, Narayan or Vishnu, in Vaikuntha, reveals the Aishvarya. The Aishvarya means is it control? What's the other word for Aishvarya? Huh? Just opulence? So Aishvarya means more like, really controlling. Huh? But this power, this immense power of God to control the material energy, is obscured in Vrindavan. You don't see that Aishvarya, opulence of Narayan in Vrindavan. It's covered or overwhelmed by the sweetness of things. The opulence is fully present, but its manifestation is suppressed. Suppressed. Every time I say a word with P in it, the microphone just goes crack. Suppressed. It's hard. The opulence is fully present, but its manifestation is suppressed. You hear the microphone? How it acts? The first line of the Govindam prayers in the Brahma Samhita makes this clear. Chintamani prakara sadmashu kalpavriksha lakshavriteshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasrasatasam brahmasam sevyamanam govindamadi prusham tamam bhajami. So Krishna is Govinda. He's just got this humble occupation of taking care of the cows. He herds the Surabhi cows, but these cows are Kamadhenu cows. Only one of these cows will fulfill all desires. That's how the opulences are suppressed in Braj. They appear as the Kamadhenu, or the hundreds and thousands of trees that are kalpavriksha. These trees yield any fruit that one desires. The dwellings in Vraj are made of chintamani, gems, stones. These chintamani gems could change a metal, any metal, into gold. Touchstones. And all of the thousands of village girls in Vrindavan who serve Govinda are goddesses of fortune. So this is all hidden. It's all very exalted, like Vaikuntha, but it's hidden in Vrindavan. And because it's confidential, Krishna, Vraj Krishna, he descends into the material energy to show this only one time in a day of Brahma, not very often. Every 4,320,000,000 years, one time. A day of Brahma contains almost 1,000 yuga cycles. So for each yuga, there's a regular avatar. And in Kali Yuga, the process of Dharma is Sankirtan. So in the other yugas, this is taught by a Vishnu avatar, Harinam Sankirtan. But when the Kali Yuga follows the descent of Krishna in this world, the purpose of Krishna and Chaitanya is to reveal the spontaneous devotion of his most intimate devotees in Vraj, and to disclose to the world his sweetest, most attractive feature. And this is what makes pure bhakti possible in the world. We have access to this. Krishna adopts the mentality of a devotee to teach the ecstatic feelings of his devotees that are in Braj. Krishna adopts the mentality of a devotee when he appears as Chaitanya. When Krishna appears, he descends in the company of his devotees. And when Chaitanya appears, these same devotees appear with him. And Krishna and Chaitanya make the hidden divine life of Vrindavan an open secret. They reveal this as an open secret to the world. So Chaitanya is an embodiment. He embodies the completion or the culmination of the eternal conjugal love, the loving exchanges of Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna are one in identity. They're just one identity, even though they manifest as separate individuals. They're still one. They're separate individuals as Radha and Krishna, and they reunite as Chaitanya, as one. As I said earlier, internally, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. Antar. Inside, he's Krishna. Externally, he's golden. His bahir, his external form is golden, or Gora Anga, golden limbed like Radharani. So all of this is to show the ultimate reality of divinity, the personal, the relational, the variegated, the dynamic, and the progressive features of divinity. Lord Chaitanya is the culmination of the Radha and Krishna love. That love of Radha and Krishna is the prototype of the male-female relations in this world. Those relations are temporary, they're relative, they're brief, they're fleeting, they're inebriating. One feels very inebriated by feelings of when Cupid's arrow hits you and you feel inebriated, very happy. But these actually increase your bondage in the material world. They increase your ignorance. They put you in the bodily concept of life. But Radha and Krishna's pastimes, which are the prototype, they drive away lust. Krishnadas Kaviraj defines lust or kama as the desire to please one's senses, and he defines prema as the desire to please Krishna's senses. The other day, we heard a class by Maharaj about the emotions and activities of the gopis and Krishna. So I'll read a little of this description that's given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas emphasizes that prema is utterly without selfish desire. Radha and the other gopis have no other way of experiencing pleasure except by seeing that Krishna is pleased in every respect. That's quite a statement. The gopis have no other way of experiencing pleasure except by seeing that Krishna is pleased in every respect. That's how the gopis are constituted. They're constituted of prema, the desire to please Krishna's senses. So they strive actively, they try hard. They set aside all other considerations to increase Krishna's pleasure. Are your eyes closed because you're meditating? Krishnadas's idea of prema or love includes, or seems to include, now Ravindra Swarup is going to make a comparison to a Western theologian. Krishnadas's idea of love seems to include and go beyond a frequently encountered Christian definition attributed to Saint Augustine, that love means to want the other to be. Love means to want the other to be. The Vaishnava and Christian definitions both contain the idea of a well-wishing attitude toward the other, which is not tinged by envy. There's no envy if there's love. But there's a well-wishing attitude toward the other. But Krishnadasa's definition adds a further important element of activity, to do something to increase the pleasure of Krishna's senses. Krishnadasa's definition also contains the idea that Krishna's bliss, Krishna's ananda or bliss, is ever expanding. And the role of the devotee is to contribute to increasing that expansion of Krishna's bliss. So devotional service is meant to expand Krishna's pleasure unlimitedly. There's no limit. And we can contribute to that. So along with the Christian notion that the idea of love is to want the other person to be, we have to add this progressive element that the role of the devotee, the role of love, is to contribute to the increase of the beloved's pleasure, of Krishna's pleasure. The service of prema by Radha and her gopi companions is the agent through which Krishna's spiritual attributes eternally increase and unfold. The love seen by the gopis is exceptionally powerful, and it is spotlessly pure, being without a tinge of selfish desire or kama. There's none of that. Being without any selfish desire or kama. Their love is single-minded dedication to giving Krishna pleasure. It's so great that Krishna himself confesses his inability to match it. He says, I cannot repay your love. Your love is so great. Your dedication is so single-minded. He made a promise. He promised to give himself to his devotees as they give themselves to him. Yeyatamam prapadyante. As you surrender unto me, I reciprocate with you accordingly. But in regard to the gopis, he admits that he cannot keep that promise. The gopis have no interest at all in their own pleasure, and yet when they see that Krishna is pleased, they find themselves filled with a joy millions of times greater than Krishna's pleasure. This is because the happiness of the gopis is wholly and solely in the pleasure of their beloved Krishna. So when they see him happy, they feel millions of times more joy than he does. At the same time, it is the joy of the gopis itself that gives Krishna the greatest pleasure. Their joy increases their beauty. And through the reciprocation of love, the beauty and joy of both Krishna and the gopis increases everlastingly. The gopis are so intent on pleasing Krishna that they become angry at their own ecstasy if it interferes with their service. So that's the difference between kama and prema. You know from your own experience, perhaps, of kama, that there's some joy, there's some pleasure between the lover and the beloved, but it doesn't go on increasing unlimitedly, and it's not millions of times more. It doesn't last just for a brief time. So this is because of the difference between material embodiment and spiritual embodiment. We experience embodiment as the soul within the body, or the soul and the mind, or the mind and the body. But these distinctions don't apply to persons whose bodies are manifest in spiritual existence, Satchidananda existence. In the spiritually embodied state, there's an inclusiveness of all these parts. The mind, the body, everything is included in the spiritually embodied state. Therefore, the Brahma Samhita characterizes Krishna's body as made of bliss and truth and eternality, Satchidananda. Now this verse comes up, it's quoted, we sing it every day during the Govindam prayers. Ananda Chinmaya Saduj Vala Vigrahasya Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vriti Manti Pasyanti Panti Payanti. And then Ananda Chinmaya Saruj Vala Vigrahasya. This means that each limb, each sense of Krishna, every sense, every limb of Krishna possesses the power of all the other limbs. Srila Prabhupada explained this by saying that when Krishna is offered some bhoga, Krishna can eat with his ears. He can hear the pujari ringing the bell, offering the prayers. Oh Krishna, please accept this offering. Krishna can eat with his ears, or he can eat with his eyes. He can look at the offering and eat it. His senses are interchangeable. So commenting on this text, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, an important Vaishnava theologian and the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, explains the unified nature of spiritual bodies. Bhaktisiddhanta says about the unified nature of spiritual bodies of Krishna and his associates, the soul and body of Krishna are identical, whereas the body and soul of the fallen creatures are not so. In the spiritual world, there's no difference between the body and soul, between the limbs and their proprietor. But such difference really exists in the case of the conditioned souls. Although Krishna has limbs, his every limb is the whole of Krishna, the whole entity of Krishna. Krishna's finger is Krishna, Krishna's fingernail is Krishna. His hand is Krishna. The whole Krishna, his hand is the whole of Krishna. like that. So from this we understand that the exchanges of love between Radha and Krishna in spiritual bodies the exchanges attain by even the slightest stimuli, a degree of intensity and intimacy unachievable by the most consummate of unions in this world. Say that Krishna catches a trace, just a trace of the aroma, the fragrance of Radharani's body. You know, just like in this world, women wear perfume or men put on cologne, you know, to attract the lover. So my father used to say, when my mother would put on perfume, my father would make a joke, and my dad would say to my mother, "Oh, you stink pretty." Stink means you smell terrible. But he would say, "You stink pretty," because she was wearing perfume. So in the spiritual world, if Krishna catches just a trace of Srimati Radharani's bodily fragrance, or just has momentary contact in a sidelong glance at Radharani, or if she glances at Krishna in a sidelong glance, these exchanges, even these slight exchanges of spiritual senses, contain a degree of intimacy and intensity that's not achievable by the most complete union in this world. This relationship, internal to the personality of Godhead, conducted through spiritual senses, takes the form of an ever new, ever inventive, perpetually enriching sequence of variations and elaborations. There's all kinds of variations and elaborations on the pastimes. And this is the engine for an unending expansion of the beauty and knowledge and bliss of eternity, of divinity, the beauty, knowledge, and bliss of divinity. It's unending expansion, beauty, knowledge, and bliss. Gazing upon Radha, taking in her youthful form, her restless eyes, her radiant smile, her maddening fragrance, Krishna becomes overwhelmed by her. All her spiritual perfections being perfectly embodied as the captivating features of her person. The captivating gracefulness of her dress and her ornaments. And Krishna's joy wells up. Krishna's joy wells up, it increases. As his happiness thus increases, his own beauty increases. Even in this world, material world, internal happiness enhances external beauty. In spiritual bodies, however, the joyfulness of the mind and the beauty of the body become fused, because there's no distinction between the spiritual mind and the spiritual body. It's fused. When Radha now sees that Krishna's beauty has surpassed itself, her joy soars higher, and her beauty is transported along with her joy. It increases it. And as Krishna sees Radharani's beauty increasing even further, it causes his joy to expand again. And so his beauty increases. And when Radharani sees that increased beauty, her joy increases, her beauty increases, and it goes on and on. It's a contest, a a rivalry between Radha and Krishna. There's no end to it. When we experience love in this world, as I said, we feel some inebriation, we feel some happiness. That now I'm thinking of this girl or I'm thinking of this boy. And it seems to be an engine for our relationship. It generates so many exchanges. But imagine if that could go on unlimitedly, ever increasingly. It won't happen in the material body. But that's what happens in the spiritual body. And then, that's not the end of it. As I said, Lord Chaitanya is the completion or culmination of this conjugal love. So, to aid, to help in the increase of this beauty and joy, there's the mission of Chaitanya in this world. Sankirtan, the chanting of the names of God, is meant to arouse the sleeping souls, to come in and assist Radharani in contributing to Krishna's happiness. Thus Chaitanya characterizes Sankirtan with the words, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, causing the ocean of transcendental bliss to increase. The one Krishna manifests as two, Radha and Krishna. They're one, but they manifest as two in order to taste pleasure. The taste arising from their reciprocation is by its very nature ever increasing. Chaitanya himself is a further element of that increase, being on the internal side a development of Radha and Krishna's mutual attraction, and being on the external side a bringer of others to contribute to and take part in that increasing love. By manifesting Krishna, by manifesting his Ladini Shakti, becomes Radha and Krishna. Then, becoming one again, Krishna reassimilates Radha, so to speak, not by negating her, but by assimilating himself into her. In so doing, he does not go back to being merely Krishna again, but rather goes forward in a progressive manner to manifest a third truth, a further revelation, the final enrichment and augmentation. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna becomes Radha. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? I wonder what our Pujari of RadhaRasbihari thinks. It's all clear? Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.